Lisa, her brother Jake, and their parents rented a house for a while when she was a kid. It had an attic that ran the length of the house, and the access to the attic was on one side of the house in her brother's closet. And then her parents' room was in the middle, and Lisa's room was on the other side. Now, their parents forbid them to play in the attic because it was full of boxes of stuff left over from former tenants. Their landlord said, you can go through them if you want, but I don't know what's in them, so do so at your own risk. So Lisa's parents had just put some of their boxes up there. They put some mattresses and things up there and just told the kids, just stay out of the attic. But on the few occasions that Lisa had been up there with her parents, she noticed that in the far end of the attic above her room was a little locked room. But they had had plenty of space in the attic for all of their stuff, so nobody ever bothered to see what was in that room. Well, Lisa starts getting woken up every night by sounds of something moving around up there, which always ended in creaking noises, almost right above her. And she thinks it has to be Jake, because the attic access is in his room. But she figures at some point, if he's up there messing around, he's also messing around on top of her parents' room, and they're going to hear him, and he's going to get busted. So she just does her best to ignore the noises and go back to sleep. And on one summer weekend day, Lisa sleeps in. And when she wakes up, she looks outside and she sees her parents working on the garden that they had put in. And so she gets some breakfast and she goes back up into her room to eat her breakfast and play on her Game Boy for a while. And for the first time in months of being woken up every night by the sounds and the creaking coming from the attic, she hears it during the day. Anxious to get Jake caught and busted, she sneaks over into Jake's room, and the closet door is open and the attic access is open. So she quietly climbs up the steps into the attic, just enough so she can peek and see what's going on. And she sees that all of the boxes have been moved to clear a path, and that the door of the little room on the other end above her room, that door is open. Jake sticks his head out, sees her, and calls her over and says, "Come on, you gotta see this," and then disappears back into the room again. Now, Lisa says the only time she has ever felt so instantly, totally, instinctually afraid was the first time she heard a cougar scream in the woods at night. And she immediately scrambles down the ladder, out of Jake's room, downstairs, outside, and she's going to tell on her brother. But when she gets outside, she sees Jake is there helping her parents in the garden, and apparently he's been there all morning and afternoon. And when her parents ask her, "Honey, why do you look so scared?" Well, still being in shock and afraid they're not going to believe her, she just says, "I think there's somebody in the attic." And her parents said, "Honey, what do you mean?" So she tells them, "I heard footsteps, and when I went to look, the attic door is open." Now, Lisa's dad, he starts cussing and goes to his truck to get his gun. And he comes back and tells the family, "If I'm not back out in 15 minutes, I want you guys to get in the truck, drive to the neighbors, and call the police." So Lisa's dad goes in the house, and after a few very anxious moments, comes back out pissed as hell and demanding the kids tell him which one of them has been messing around in the attic. Well, both kids say, "Wasn't me." And so they all, as a family unit, go in the house to check it out. And they all go up in the attic and they see that, yes, all of the boxes have been moved aside. And yes, that door to that little back room is still open. And all that's inside that room, there's no light, there's no window. All that's in there is a rocking chair that's covered in decades of dust, with no signs that anyone has been anywhere near it. And Jake says, "See, there's proof. If I'd been up in the attic, I would have left footprints and stuff." But in the absence of any other explanation, their dad doesn't buy it, and Jake gets grounded for a couple of weeks for sneaking around and breaking the rules. Now, Lisa still refused to sleep in that room, and she'd sleep downstairs on the couch if she could get away with it, because the sound of footsteps and the creaking of the rocking chair would still wake her up every night.